next speaker coming in from Florida today, and I'm talking about Miladen Milanovic. Miladen is the Vice President of Engineering responsible for Presidio's RPA program globally. In last 2.5 years, Miladen and his team have been working with customers from different industry verticals, evangelizing robotics process automation and intelligent automation in customer care. With more than 20 years of experience in customer care, Miladen and his team are specializing in increasing efficiency in contact center and improving customer experiences. Miladen, what a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise in this area with our global audience today.
No problem. It's a pleasure, definitely. So let me start this. So let me show my presentation. I hope that you guys can see my prezo.
Looks good.
Okay, perfect. So first, good afternoon, good evening, or thank you very much for dedicating the time for my session. So today we are going to talk about why RPA programs fail and how to prevent it. When we thought about what we're going to talk about today, we knew that this specific subject has been approached multiple times from different practitioners. But today we feel that talking about potential failures and how to prevent failure of the RPA program is very important, keeping in mind where robotic process automation and intelligent automation as a whole is at what point is it, where it is from the industry standpoint and from the adoption standpoint. So let's kind of start talking about it, and this is a quick review what we're going to be talking about. Before we dig into dive into the content of the presentation, I would like to kind of spend a couple of minutes talking about Presidio, as we feel that we are bringing on the intelligent automation and RPA market very unique approach and very unique kind of different set of eyes how we approach to the automation in general. First of all, who we are. Presidio is a global digital services and solution provider, and our goal is to accelerate business transformation by modernizing and securing our clients' information technology. So Presidio has over 30 years experience in a traditional information technology space, and we partner with different manufacturers across the board: Cisco, Juniper, Avaya, Genesis, and so on and so on. And we are bringing a set of technologies in our portfolio, both of services and software that we can offer our clients, put us in very unique position that we can really deliver on the overall business outcome. We operate in a very unique space, which is kind of lower enterprise and mid-market, and our customers are under pressure, right? They are competing with technology companies, and our customers do not have ability, or they don't have enough time, or they don't have enough skills internally to run and build those technology projects. So that's where we come. So our main goal is to be a trusted advisor to our customers and help them select a set of technology solutions and services in order to be able to deliver on the business outcome and disrupt the industries in which they are operating. So if you look our footprint, we are a fully global company. We ship, deliver, and implement in over 160 countries, and we serve over 1,000 international customers. We recently acquired a significant capabilities offshore. So our nearshore, onshore, and offshore capabilities are huge. So now we are equipped that we can better serve our clients no matter where they are at, or no matter in which time zone they are operating. So without further ado, let's just jump into the today's presentation. As I pointed out, today we feel that robotic process automation and intelligent automation, and I want to kind of, for a purpose of this presentation, talk about, when I talk about RPA, I also talk about hyper automation and intelligent automation, because today that's the entire technology stack that we really need to address. So anyway, so RPA is a mainstream. If we look at the hype curve, we are now outside of those parts of the hype curve where technology was new. We know that RPA is proven. We already know the limitations and abilities of the RPA, and RPA is becoming adopted by multiple different organizations. So it's not just limited technology that maybe early adopters or disruptors will use to increase the efficiencies across the board. Now we are seeing a traditional customers from different industry, different sizes and different shapes, different verticals are adopting the robotic process automation. And that's captured definitely in a overall market size. And if you guys see the Grandview Research already estimated RPA market size in 2027, which is in 5 years, it's going to be over 25 billion. The CAGR, overall CAGR for the entire RPA industry is 41%. And recently, Deloitte surveyed 442 executives from 29 countries, and they found that 73% of those surveyed executives already started the RPA journey. So we see that adoption is there, and we are seeing more and more companies are really investing heavily. It's not just exploring, but also doing robotic process automation into there and kind of integrating the RPA into their overall business models. Now, it's not, everything is not that rosy, if I can say like that. We are seeing also at the same token, we are seeing some of the red flags that we put like down here. So when McKinsey did a research, and they find out that out of all surveyed executives and companies, only 61% of them met their automation targets. So they implemented automation. They integrated RPA in their business model and business practices. However, over 30% of them, and that's like a third, still didn't hit those goals and those results that they were aiming for. So that's a first red flag. The previously mentioned Deloitte survey also noticed that automation maturity grade, and it goes from 1 to 10, is 441, and that was measured on 2022 survey. And comparing of 2019, we are the 2019 that score was 4.24. So 0.20 or 0.18 was slight increase in the automation maturity within the organization organizations that already are implementing the automation. So we are seeing that even though companies are implementing automations, that's another indicator that executives are aware that automations that they deployed didn't reach or they didn't realize the potential that intelligent automation can bring. And lastly, Ernst & Young did another survey, and they find out that it's a very wide range, but there's a 30 to 50% RPA implementation failure rate, which is problematic. So even though throughout the entire COVID-19 pandemic, we saw very unique circumstances in which businesses were needed to find innovative ways to augment the workforce, to increase capacity, increase flexibility, and respond on their customers' needs. We are still seeing that there is a significant portion of the market or customers that are not leveraging or not realizing benefits of the automations as they should, right? So in conversation with the multiple executives, it is clear their RPA journey has not been easy win for many of the customers. It's almost a third, right? And especially we are seeing problems where companies are trying to scale their localized proof of concepts. So basically what we are seeing is that companies jump into the automation program with building some proof of concepts, and each practitioner or every RPA partner, we are very keen to offer the proof of concepts, and we always deliver on those. However, moving from that successful proof of concept to a production automation and then scaling and creating a stable demand is something that was definitely a challenge, and lots of executives at some point put programs, robotic process automation on pause until they understood better what is the path forward into their automation program. We, in talking to our customers and their different clients of Presidio, we find 4 most significant reasons why RPA programs might fail, or why what can put the RPA program to the stall phase. The first one is underestimating complexity. So here's the problem. With the promise of huge savings, companies are tempted to get straight into technical development without understanding customer and employee touch points and information flows. So basically, we all look into the ROIs, and ROIs calculations that every RPA platform can provide are very high and very tempting, right? So what's happening there is that we immediately say, okay, let's pick up the process and let's just do it, and let's just start harnessing those savings. The problem is that more often we select the processes that are on a surface simple, but when we start analyzing, they are very complex, they are not optimized, and we ended up really automating processes that are not clean, which at the end of the day creates a nightmare for maintenance and extends overall implementation time and move from the proof of concept to the production phase. Another issue is technical feasibility or lack of IT readiness. As a company that lives in information technology, we work closely with information technology leaders. However, cloud disruption was able to move a technology decision and technology conversation from traditional ITs into the business units. And often the businesses are avoiding conversation about the technical limitation or maturity of the current technology stack. And they tend to involve internal information IT departments early into the conversation. That potentially can lead to a stall of the RPA program, and because we have to get another cycles to get all those systems, even though they are cloud, approved by information technology, approved by security, and make sure that we are able to leverage all those applications and all those information system touch points needed to complete automation process. Regulatory and security concerns are kind of overlapping with IT readiness and technical feasibility. Simply, we were recently working with a big university based in United States, where we did a significant prototyping around their automation program. But we didn't include the information security and compliance team, which we did a little bit later in a process, but that did create some of the delays into overall implementation, because we had to rehash certain things and redesign certain things in order to meet internal security standards. And last but not the least is definitely a lack of skills. So, and lack of skills is not just lack of those technical skills. It's a more, maybe we should call that lack of focus to implement, because most of our organizations or businesses are very eager to start their automation programs. And what they do, they take up people from a production and give them the kind of responsibilities around the RPA program as their second job. So what we are seeing that some of the employees that are part of the automation initiative still do not have a focus, because there's still lots of things to do in their day job, and they are taking RPA as a extra project that didn't get enough attention. So all of those things we feel that it's important to address. When we are speaking of a lack of skills, we recently worked with a Fortune 100 client that really embrace agile, and they already have agile technology squads deployed very close to their product or business units. Long story short, they had teams that were deploying the automations internally, but because of their inability to scale or react faster, in order to onboard automation from the idea to the production, it took them between 90 and 120 days. So this diagram I took from UiPath automation operating model, because it does really nicely illustrates all the points where automation program can potentially go from the success to the failure, or from the success to stagnation. And we see the start is that POC proving phase. And as we are moving from the proving phase, if we do not have a clearly understand automation roadmap, we are very easily can go to the risk of failure. Let's say if we don't know our roadmap, or if we choose a process that is not adequate for automation, we can get into the failure, because there will be disappointment, complex implementation, expensive implementation, or implementation of the automation that is not timely. If we are in a phase where we successfully deploy the proof of concept, there is another point where we can go either be successful or get into the stagnation, and that goes to that roadmap. Prioritize roadmap of the automations where we know, okay, we did automate process A and B, and now we need to move. Here is the list of other processes, and that demand management can literally make a huge difference between stagnation and acceleration of the overall automation program. So how we at Presidio think that our clients should start with automation. So we like Jim Carroll's key innovation message, which is think big, start small, and then scale fast. We strongly believe that this sentence or this saying is kind of embodies the way how we should look and approach to the robotic process automation program. Think big, give us opportunity to create that automation roadmap and that aspiration. What are those processes and what are those businesses that we want to automate and increase the efficiencies for? Start small, help us with building that prototype and growing from the prototype to something that is from idea to something that is tangible and that we can measure success of our program. And then scale fast, because now we have a prototype, we have some experiences, and we have that idea and that vision, and we want to scale fast based on our overall vision of our program. Keeping in mind that innovation strategy, we build our framework, automation framework for success, that is significantly based on a traditional design thinking model. So there is a 4 phases plus 1, and they're ideate, prototype, expand, and scale. And the bottom one is in fact managed services, in which we are providing a unique opportunities for our clients to focus on the innovation while we take a responsibility of caring, feeding, and managing those implemented automation. So let's look at those components. So in ideate phase, Presidio or internal teams, we can participate or lead workshops. We can really help and guide businesses and technology leaders to really understand what are those high value processes that have a significant opportunity for automation. At the same time, during the ideation phase, we are considering and analyzing existing technology stack and creating and mapping the needs for potential improvement in the tech stack in order to really support that desired business outcome that we came to during our ideation process. During the prototype phase, we are rapidly building a functioning prototype, which is our starting point for validation of the idea, but also it gives us a better understanding how we are going to structure the next phases, both from a timeline perspective as well as a cost and support perspective. At the end of the day, I like when we are speaking with our clients to bring the cost, because it is a significant part of the overall ROI strategy, because we have a licensing cost, we have implementation cost, and managed service and manage or run cost. So all of that we like to talk when we are talking to our customers, really present upfront, because that's going to give us something tangible that we can bring to the executive team or board in order to approve or reshape the approach to the automation program. During the expand phase, we can really work while our customers are adopting our initial automations. We can work and lead those automation discovery sessions or workshops where we are going to create a demand or create the automation roadmap. And lastly, scale is really trying to go and follow that automation roadmap, where we are going to help our clients develop those automations, bring those ideas and that roadmap to the life, and then really show how we can implement those automations. Speaking of that Fortune 100 client that we work with, and just to remind you, their overall kind of timeline for implementing automation was between 90 and 120 days. We were able to bring that down to 4 weeks, because we were able to bring additional resources that are completely cross-functional, and we are able to really bring in a knowledge from different areas of technology in order to deliver a solution that really delivers on that business outcome. Anyway, lastly, run. We feel that everything needs a managed services component, and kind of out-tasking or outsourcing the manage or run function to a partner or to a company gives our customers more focus on their automation program, because they can be focused more on innovation while we are taking care of the running their both robotic infrastructure or overall robotic systems. So let's look again how this framework saves us, or how this framework really matches up against the risk of stagnation and failure. First, we have ideation that goes directly at the beginning, and that's the phase 0 of everything. So we are able to, at that time, assess all the needs and all potential risks for our future automation program. With the prototyping, we are ready to do establish phase. We are ready to show the working prototype and then set a clear metrics for measuring the performance of our automation program. With a scale phase, we can really provide or capture that automation roadmap. And as we are moving from the prototyping phase and production phase, we can come prepared, and we know what are the next processes or next systems that we need to automate without really getting into the risk of stagnation. And lastly, having the dedicated and cross-functional resources give our customers an opportunity to accelerate their automation programs by bringing technologies or technical solution that create that intelligent automation framework in which we can leverage those complex and more challenging automation scenarios. And lastly, in order to keep the pace with the innovation, we can outsource and we can take care of the managed services and the run function, and still have the team focus on increasing their internal innovation and increasing rate of adoption of their RPA. So anyway, let's conclude because I know that I'm between you guys and the lunch. So here is the equation for success that McKinsey put maybe a few years back. Technologies plus techniques is equal optimal value. And if you see, there are those cross-functional resources, and that's that holistic approach that we as a RPA practitioners need to take when we are assessing the automation problem. The robotic process automation in its own is not going to be an adequate solution. It may solve one part of the problem. The holistic approach, leveraging the unique or unified intelligent automation platform that can integrate robotic process automation, machine learning, OCR, natural language understanding technologies, as well as ability to leverage the APIs when they are available, is in fact that portfolio of technology solutions that can help us address the unique automation problem or automation challenge and deliver on the automation outcome. From a technique perspective, that's what we are talking about. We're talking about the framework where practitioners and internal teams are bringing to a table that starts with the design thinking, but then it goes beyond design thinking, bringing in techniques from a Six Sigma for cleaning the processes, understanding what are those touch points for both external and internal customers or users of the process, and then creating that prototype, which will, I don't want to say it will be minimum viable product, but it will be minimum likable product that addresses a needs addresses that the business outcome that was put in front of us by the business leader. And lastly, when we collect all of those and when we produce that, we believe is going to create the optimal value for our customers And we feel that the framework that we built over years, that we are delivering our services, is really in line with what business consultants are seeing and management consultants are seeing across the different roles. So I'm gonna thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out or hit me on LinkedIn. I'm always willing to have a conversation. Again, this is a very interesting technology. So we are all working together in order to improve overall, not just the customer experience, but also experience of our employees. Thank you very much.
Milada, fantastic presentation. Thank you for that. Lots of great questions have come up here. So thank you for everybody who is participating again and submitting your questions. You asked some really interesting questions. So I have lots of questions in my own mind, but my questions do not matter. I want to ask the questions from the audience. And I'll start early on in the presentation. You talked about some surveys and benchmarks, and you discussed briefly about a maturity model. And one of our participants asks about an automation maturity model. I think most people know that the IT has these maturity models, and I'm curious if you can shed some light on that, Milada. Is there a maturity model for automation, or you're kind of like borrowing from the typical IT maturity model?
So there is a automation maturity model, and there is something that is also very important that in the last 5 years get the big traction. Is automation operating model as well. And we feel that in order to build a sustainable automation program, we feel that having the both the maturity assessment at the beginning and then graduate to the automation operating model is extremely important, because otherwise the scaling up will not be possible. Especially for a smaller organization, using all components of the automating operating model might be an overkill. But if we are talking about a bigger organization, especially the organization or automation program that will serve multiple different business units, that's something where we see a really that those how can I put it, those solution or that framework shows extremely good results moving forward.
And without getting too much in detail, because I know you'd probably need a whole entire session just on that automation maturity model, can you just kind of mention a few of the items that may be on the maturity model that you may find relevant, like when an organization has low maturity and it's increasing its maturity level? What do you see as the most maybe important components, one or two key components on that maturity growth?
So we definitely see there's a three, in fact. The first one is a understanding of the processes. Number two is the IT readiness, as we or let's not call it IT readiness, it's technology readiness and skill maturity within the organization. And when I talk about skill maturity of the organization, the important is it's that cross-functional thinking, because unfortunately what we are seeing is we're seeing experts working in a silo. So building that mindset in which we are going to create a team that is going to look above or beyond the silo is extremely important to increase that overall maturity of the program and assess and have like a successful program moving forward, if I can say like that.
Very, very good. This is an excellent comment you have just made there. You have just mentioned one out of the two critical components that we have found on the successful implementation of intelligent automation. Our last session today, we're going to be talking about the governance and mechanisms and culture specifically for intelligent automation implementation. And you have just mentioned three items there that are very important in that journey. So thank you for that. Next question is an interesting one. And it's a bit of a challenge question, because The promise of RPA is that we're going to come in and we're going to automate these mundane questions so that you're going to have this freedom to do like higher level work and use your creativity and innovate. And that's wonderful. But what people are saying, there are the audience are saying, I'm now more stressed out than before because now I have an RPA that doesn't work right all the time, and I have to be learning the details of this automation, and I don't have any more time for innovative work. I'm actually consumed now by all this supposed intelligent automation. So I'm sure that this is kind of a broad statement, but what's going on that you think that this RPA implementations fail to the point that people are really not better off? They feel like they have more work now, even though they have robots that are supposed to be assisting them.
So it's a blessing and a curse of the automation, if you would. So the fact that we can very quickly jump into the technical work and start programming and developing those robots, and that's what all those low code or no code environment gave us. It really exposed us to the risk of, number one, not really thinking about what we are automating, how we are automating, and who we are putting in charge of our automation program. Let me share the internal experience that we have with Presidio. We hit all of those roadblocks when we started our internal robotic process automation program. So what we did, in fact, we made a we immediately, as a technologist, oh yeah, it's a no code, let's just do it. So we start doing it, and then we ended up with the automation that was extremely complex, and every day we had to do something in order to keep that robot running. So what we ended up doing, we said, okay, that doesn't work. We don't have time for it. We want to take care of our customers. I cannot be bothered, or I cannot be working on maintaining our internal robots. So what we did, we sat down with our team, we redesigned the process, we understood more details what we are touching, and then we did automation. And I will tell you right now, I don't remember last time when I personally touched one of those robots that are working 24/7 and maintaining our financial operations. So I think that that's a very important moment in which we need to start from a beginning, select the right process, and work with the leaders and SMEs on that process to clean it up. That's the first step. So,
ladies and gentlemen, so if for those of you who are watching live, that's wonderful. For those of you who are watching this on demand, which is a lot of people will watch it later on demand, rewind this portion of the tape and play back, because what he has just shared with you is the essence of a real practitioner. Mladen is not writing books about RPA, he is implementing it. So he knows what works and what doesn't work from that personal experience and professional experience. And what he has just shared with you is sounds like common sense, but common sense is the least common of the senses in large organizations. People are not doing what Mladen just talked about here. And as a matter of fact, Mladen, there's a statement here on the chat from Marcus Paganini again, who is the global vice president of manufacturing for Johnson & Johnson. Someone who has tremendous experience globally on implementing automation and processes around the world. And this is also can be on the context of lean and sometimes on agile implementations. This kind of fits that. And I'll quote, he says, I have an additional perspective on why companies struggle to scale proven pilots. Two elements. There's a lack of change management and there's poor pull process. And too many pilots on different fronts that in nature are different, but when it comes to scaling, they usually compete for the same resources. So this is in addition to what Mladen has just talked about, which is the fact that you don't have a good process ownership and end-to-end understanding of that process. And if you want to automate unnecessary complexity, you're going to end up with an unnecessary complex automation. And that often doesn't even reflect what's really going on in the business. So, you know, the fundamentals of understanding your process sounds like such common sense, but people jump into automation as much as they will jump in agile and lean implementations, and they lose sense of the whole. And it's not one or the other. You gotta do both. We gotta master those contradictions to be successful. You gotta think high level. You gotta think details. You gotta follow some of this incredible guidelines that Miladen is sharing with us here today. I don't know
I
if you
want
want
to
to
add one more thing. One more thing is also people get wrapped into the tail end. My thought or how we approach is your process is 0% automated today. If we do 80% or even 70%, that's a gain. So let's address what is the automatable and let's make that automatable and leave humans with exceptions. That's fine as well. If that's the first step. And to your point, then we can agile. When we start scaling, we can go back and address that tail end. So don't be overzealous in automation. I want a 100% automated process. From 0 to 50, it's a huge success. It's a huge saving.
And Miladen, that just speaks of your experience and knowledge of design thinking as well, because we both know that, you know, you take an 80% approach now, you can maybe automate something nicely. If you want to capture the last 20%, that's where the complexity becomes exponential. You know, that's why people end up with 600-page procedures, because you know, they could have a 60-page procedure that covers 80%, but now they want to cover 100%. Now it's 600 pages. So, you know, you got to understand, that's a design thinking approach that I love, and thanks for bringing that up. You know, that last 20%, you gotta make sure that it's worth, you know, encompassing that, because usually requires special approaches. So these are fantastic insights that you have shared here. Let's take a more positive approach here. Some of the questions that came up have to do with, okay, the organizations that do it well. Think about an organization you work with that, you know what, they've done it well. Maybe they didn't do well from the beginning, but they learned their lessons, they do it well. What does it look like? How have they, at this point of maturity that they're doing it well, what's in place there? You know, you already talked about some of the elements, but what is kind of distinguishing feature of these organizations that are being successful at RPA and intelligent automation? What do you see on them that makes them stand out?
So number one, they have a very well-established COE, so that's no doubt. Having the COE with a very structured charter and who is doing what is very important. They have they evangelize, they have automation first mindset. And this is very important because, and it goes to education and goes, it's not just, hey, let's make that ivory tower that exists and we have a website within the organization's SharePoint where we are COE, but COE that is proactively going and educating everybody from a bottom to top, with the top being a support for the COE, is something that, so if you want to see, if you want to ask me what is the every single successful organization has, that's that automation first mindset. Every single person within the business unit is aware of the program, it's aware of the benefits, and they know where to go. We can have as many executive supports as we want, but having people on the field that are doing the work, understanding what automation is and what is the automation goal of the COE is something that is driving the program. And I have to be very honest, and maybe that's where we're at right now within the Presidio internally. We have our field sellers coming to us with ideas how they want us to improve our internal operations. So, and that's exactly where we want it to be, from the internal Presidio adoption of the automation.
Very, very good. One final question here to wrap this up. What have you seen in your experience? You know, there's so many different approaches. We have heard, you know, we had someone who sells RPA, you know, solutions platforms early on. Then we had someone who uses RPA as a service instead of you know, acquiring the platform, you know, as a different approach. What do you think is the best approach? You know, I mean, there are lots of vendors of RPA and platforms of RPA. How, you know, do you keep it in-house? Do you outsource? Talk briefly about what is the best approach when it comes to choosing an RPA provider and developing the capabilities.
So here's how I would, so when we speak about RPA as a service, I will be very honest. I strongly believe that RPA components as a service, I think that that's something that that is going to become de facto industry standard. We do not see, unless in a very unique circumstances for unique industries and compliance, that someone is going to have the components in-house. So RPA as a service from that perspective, yes. Now, I am a huge believer into the hybrid model from the service perspective. Outsourcing your entire RPA program is not going to work because nobody knows your business as you know. So what we feel is having the organization that is going to coordinate the partners that are going to help you out in each one of those phases, and leveraging, consuming the RPA technology as a service from the RPA provider. I think that that's the best mix. I don't think that you can, even though they are specific, but they're like service providers. You are in a healthcare and you do some authorizations or whatever, right? And there is a company that does that. That's a different story. That's a completely outsourcing the process, right? If you want to have, I think it's a hybrid. You will have, and you will run the business outcomes and create automation roadmap, and then you will use a partner to fill those gaps, skill gaps that you don't have, in order for you to be able to scale. That's how I see it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Miladen, for sharing your wisdom and expertise, practical perspectives on implementing RPA for value creation and sustainability. On behalf of our global audience, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Miladen Milanovic, Vice President of Engineering at Presidio, sharing their perspectives of their RPA program on a global scale. Now, we're going to be taking a break here now, and I will be back with you to wrap up day one of RPA and Intelligent Automation Live. We're going to be looking at more than 1,000 organizations and the benchmark for those organizations who have sustainably implemented intelligent automation solutions. Beyond that, they have become value creation leaders and dominant in their fields. What are the traits of those organizations, the components for their success, and most important, I want you to know what there are true skills that they develop widely as an organizational competence and in their professionals, and true skills that separate multi-trillion-dollar organizations from multi-billion-dollar organizations and multi-million-dollar organizations. And we're going to be talking about how do they scale innovation for value creation, and they shape their cultures as a competitive advantage. So we'll be seeing that at the top of the hour directly with me. In the meantime, take a break. You can check the LinkedIn post under my name for this conference and post in additional comments. Thank our sponsors, thank our speakers, connect with our speakers directly right there, and continue the conversation. So for now, enjoy your break, and I'll see you back at the top of the hour.